Hey guys, this screencast was done as a part of Internet of Things coursework. We are Group 42 and my name is Abhinav Rajaraman. He's my teammate.
Hector Martinez, and we're going to talk about IoT goes nuclear, creating a Zigbee chain reaction, which comes under the domain of privacy, safety, and security. So let's get started.
So, this is the overview of our presentation. First, we introduce the concept of IoT and the trends in the IoT, the attack phases. Then, we introduce the available and tested targets to attack, how these attacks are performed by the authors, disclosure, and finally, the conclusion. We will delve into more depth about these aspects as we progress through the presentation. So, what is IoT? Techopedia says it is a computing concept that describes the idea of everyday physical objects being connected to the internet and being able to identify themselves to other devices. Why is there a mammoth growth of the IoT devices? As you can see from the graph, in 2012 there were 8.7 billion devices, and it is expected that by 2020 there will be around 50.1 billion IoT devices. But what could be the reason behind it? Why do we need these IoT devices? To understand this, let us consider an example of refrigerator. What is the function of a refrigerator? To keep the food inside it cold. But then just imagine what if it could do much more than that, like keeping track of a food that is within it and giving you a recipe based on that, or when the quantity of food goes below a particular amount, it could order the food from the supermarket and make sure that it refills it without you having going to the supermarket and stuff like that. Sounds cool, isn't it? But then, with greater convenience comes greater risk. So let us see a video about this now.
Hello, my cold friend. Hello?
Huh, suck it, Jin Yang.
You attack and destroy my refrigerator? And you misspell my name.
I did. Had to overclock Anton, but I was able to brute force the backdoor password to that Chrome piece of shit in under 12 hours. But I added a little visual flair.
Huh, suck it, Jin Yang.
So, do we really need to be in that kind of a situation, like, when your friend just hacks in your refrigerator or your home network, or could be anything? And then there could be another set of people who might think, okay, this is just a TV show, and yeah, anything could happen in a TV show. So it's basically just fiction. Well, I have some bad news for you. This is real and this is happening. I'm gonna show you one more video, but this time this is a real video, and by the end of the video, I would really appreciate it if you could guess whose product is that. So let's watch this video. So there is something called Zigbee war driving. It basically means that you hack something while just driving. So let us play this video and see. So as you can see, the attacker is in the car and he's trying to like control the lamps that he has installed in this particular building. As you can see that the lamps are flickering and the distance is about 70 meter, and he's controlling it while driving the car.
So, indeed, it is real. The target was Philips and its Hue product, which is known as one of the most important smart light system. Despite all the security efforts that they probably took, they got hacked. Even though the usage of the IoT devices is increasing day by day, the security level of these devices still remains a concern. So, how do you think that it was done? Before to answer this question and go into details and see or guess how it was done, we need some background in order to understand what is going to be said. So let's have a look. We are going to talk about the CLL protocol and how its weaknesses are exploited, the percolation theory, OTA updates, the crypto systems and the block ciphers modes that are used, and the power analysis to guess the block cipher mode. So let's have a look at the main components of Philips Hue. There are three components, the bridge, the light bulbs, and the lighting up. The bridge is the item that connects all the light bulbs with the router, and through the router, which is connected to the internet, the user is able to control remotely all the light bulbs that are installed at home. Also, the user can establish some kind of a schedule in order to manipulate all the light bulbs at certain decided time. So the attack consists in two different phases. The first phase is the taking over the pre-installed smart lights. Philips Hue uses Zigbee Light Link protocol instead of Zigbee protocol. The CLL protocol belongs to Zigbee Pro, and it has three different phases: the discovery, the transfer of network settings, and the request network formation or join. So the very first step to join or to create a network is the discovery, and the node initiator scans for the CLL nodes in its vicinity based on the signal strength. Then we have the transfer of network settings, where the initiator requests and receives the network settings of nodes of interest, and the last one, the request network formation or join to create a new one, is that the initiator requests a node of interest to either form a new network or join to an existing one. Also, it's important to point out that the CLL employs interpan communication for commissioning messages. During the commissioning, there are some security settings that are being established. CLL cannot use Zigbee security in its standard form, hence there is no coordinator or trust center. Zigbee-like link uses a network-level security in which the same key network is used by all nodes in the network to encrypt or decrypt the communications. So there are four different steps or messages that happen or transmits in the process of commissioning. The security setup is the following. The first step is that if the target node is to be the first node of the network, the initiator code generates a random network key and encrypts it using the CLL master key. That this master key was leaked and it's completely accessible through the internet. So if you want to find this key, you will find it on internet. So the second step is that the initiator sends the encrypted network key to the target node as part of the request to form or join the network. Then the third message that it sends is that that happened is that the target node decrypts the received network key using the CLL master key, and the last one is that all future communications from or to this node will be encrypted using this network key. So the network key is generated randomly by the initiator node when the network is formed and is unique. This network key is generated randomly by the initiator node when the network is formed and is unique to the network. The distribution of this key to the nodes is secured using CLL master key, which is pre-installed in all the CLL certified nodes during the manufacture. So the attackers wanted to cause the light to reset to factory new, and they found an interpan transaction containing a non-zero 34 bits, which it was the transaction ID. And do the proximity test, that is a security mechanism that don't allow to the device to operate further than a certain distance, it wasn't possible to set a valid transaction ID. So in order to take control of the lamps, the attackers sent a factory reset with ID 0, deleting its keys, and when the lamps wakes up again, it goes into a backward compatibility mode, also to an older version of the protocol, and the proximity test is not performed anymore.
Now that we know how this proximity test can be bypassed and make the lamps join our network, I will show you a video where the hackers have performed this test in real time. So let's watch the video. For the war flying, a more interesting target was chosen. An office building in the city of Beersheba hosting some well-known security companies and also the Israeli CERT. Several Philips Hue lights were installed in the first floor to test the attack. Let us now see the video. The video starts with the external footage of the drone taking off at a range of 350 meters. The evaluation board of the attack kit can be seen hanging on 1 meter USB cable beneath the drone. After the takeoff, the drone's high quality camera is switched on. Later, after liftoff, it is already possible to see light effects starting in a distance. As the drone gets closer to the building, the Zigbee channels get more reliable and they are able to affect more lights and flickering becomes more regular. When the drone hovers in front of a building, second phase of attack can be seen. The lights have been kidnapped now from their controller, and if you know Morse code, you can see that it is signaling SOS repeatedly. With this, the hackers have demonstrated how they took control of the pre-installed lighting systems. So now, let us move on to the phase 2. So what is this IoT worm? IoT worm is a malware that can automatically spread among physically adjacent elements, in this case, the light bulbs, in a chain reaction over a large area using Zigbee network. So how does this happen? There is something called a percolation theory, and it says when the percolation threshold is above the critical mass, then a single infected bulb can keep on passing the worm to the adjacent bulb, and practically it wreaks havoc on the entire lighting system. So there is a formula to calculate this critical mass, which you could find in the source link, and it says like for a city like Eindhoven, which is about 90 square kilometer, the critical mass is somewhere around 12,000 to 13,000. So if there are more than 13,000 bulbs in Eindhoven, which apparently should be, because we are obviously the city of light, so come on. So in our case, if a single bulb is infected, then that worm can practically spread to the other bulbs. And in order to replace this, it's gonna take us a lot of time and money. Robert Tapian Morris Jr. is the first to introduce this worm, and he was under probation for 400 days and had to pay a huge fine of 10,500 euros. But when asked why he did that, he said that to demonstrate the inadequacies of current security measures on computer networks by exploiting the security defects that I had discovered. So basically, he wanted to expose the security vulnerabilities in the network. Why is this worm so dangerous? As I said, a single infected entity is enough to corrupt the entire network. Moreover, Zigbee frequencies and protocol is not monitored. So it's very difficult to track if someone is going to attack, or it's impossible to stop an attack once it has started.
So now let's talk about the persistence of code execution and the OTA future. There were two possibilities in order to achieve the persistent in code, and one of them was totally discarded due to the difficulty for finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities. Also, the attackers found that these bulbs were using processors with Harvard architecture, which does not allow to execute code from the memory. So with this scenario, they were forced to use the ROP, means return oriented programming attacks that require knowledge of code and also customization for each model. So since it's not scalable and very complicated, they just decided to move to the Zigbee OTA feature. The Zigbee OTA feature gives to vendors a big possibility to customize the updates, so they just customize an update for you. To start an OTA image verification process, all they need is just to set a flag on the flash and put the image in a specific offset in the flash. During the power on, the processor checks the flag, and if it set, starts to read and then verify the OTA image. So as we saw in the previous slide, they were using symmetric cryptography. So it was needed to know what kind of cipher modes blocks they were using. So the attackers combined two novel attacks to determine precisely this mode. The first one was a CPA attack against the CCM mode, used to encrypt and to verify firmware updates, allowing them to encrypt, sign, and upload malicious OTA updates to infect lights. This attack targets the verification phase of the CCM mode. The second one consists in a takeover attack, allowing them to take full control over the lights from long distances without using custom hardware. There are so many different cipher block modes, and in the following slide we can see the original image and the same image encrypt using ECB mode, and then the same image encrypted using another kind of another cipher block mode. So it's obvious that the if we encrypt the image with ECB mode, we can completely guess the original image. So if it happens with an image, it also can happen with numbers or other kind of values. So as they deducted that the cipher block mode used was CBC with MAC verification, let's have a look to its scheme. It's appreciable that the input to the block cipher is a XOR of three values. The first value is the CBC state of the previous block. The second is the CBC MAC verification of the current block, and the last one is the ciphertext. But if we take a closer look to the first two values, the attackers said that these are not dependent of the ciphertext. So they just created a modified cipher block to look like a ECB cipher block. And we already saw the consequences of using this kind of encryption. So after that, you can guess that they are able to know all the keys.
So now, let us move on to the objectives of the attackers. What could the objectives of attackers possibly be? For instance, a blackout. When a country faces a blackout, it is basically blinded, and the results of such blackouts could be catastrophic. The next one is the bricking attack. In this, an attacker can use the worm from a citywide bricking attack. The malicious firmware can disable additional firmware updates, and thus any effect caused by the worm will be permanent. There is no other method of reprogramming these devices without full disassemble. Any old stock would also need to be recalled, as any devices with vulnerable firmware can be infected as soon as the power is applied. The next one is damage to the electric grid. When the light bulbs are scheduled on and off multiple times, these sudden changes in power consumption can have a detrimental effect on the electric grid. The next attack is epileptic seizures. By repeatedly flashing the lights at right frequency, it is possible to induce epileptic seizures in photosensitive people on large scale. The final one is wireless network jamming. The IEEE 802.15.4 standard, on which the Zigbee runs, uses a 2.4 GHz channel. This is the same channel which the Wi-Fi also uses, and by using many infected lamps at once, the Wi-Fi communication could be disrupted in a city. So the authors contacted Philips and Atmel and disclosed the vulnerabilities prior to their publication, and the protocol implementation bug was fixed and an update was rolled out. The software update process still remains vulnerable. So what could be the conclusion for this presentation? What could possibly go wrong with the usage of IoT devices? As we have seen that without really thinking about it, people are populating their homes, offices with IoT devices. These IoT devices have ad hoc capabilities, and this network could be exploited as explained in this presentation. I believe that this will not be the last bug or attack found on ZLL commissioning. While the vendor's main design goal of ease of use is understandable, a better trade-off between usability and security must be made. The security community and the academia should be allowed to take part in this process. IoT devices are becoming more and more common and affect larger parts of our lives. Hence, we should work together to use the knowledge we gain to protect IoT devices, or we might face in the near future large-scale attacks that will affect every part of our lives.
So with this, we come to the end of our presentation. Thank you for your patience.